My name's Courtney Quisenberry. I'm a customer supply chain manager at Campbell's. I've been with the company for 5 years now, and I graduated from Penn State in supply chain in 2013. I think there's a couple things on how supply chain has evolved. I think one, it's become more global. We've really seen manufacturing, distribution become so interconnected across the world and through countries and different companies, and really understanding how many facets it touches. I think two, we've really seen an advancement of technology as well as information. We can get everything from a GPS location on a truck to see where in the United States it is, to see how long it's going to take till it gets to a warehouse, to as well seeing expiration dates and seeing the specifics. So I think being able to kind of all that data and how we use it and how we improve processes by using some of that information and technology. And I think the third thing is it's become so much faster, so much more agile. We just think about how much we want from corporations and from each other, how fast we want something to deliver. I know when I do a lot of online ordering, I want it here tomorrow. So really understanding supply chains, looking at how can we do that and how can we do it better. I think being a woman in the field of supply chain is really about one, being a problem solver, and two, being a connector. Supply chains evolve so much more than just making a widget and the traditional engineering pieces of it. I think it's really become, how do we work together? And I'm always touching so many different pieces of the process, different functions, different customers, different suppliers. And I've always found that as a woman, I bring a sense of both logic and emotion to the situation. I can understand people's point of view, and I've been in a lot of different roles to know what it's like to be in their shoes and be able to connect that to solve the problems in a different way and not just come in with this idea. I think I've found, and don't want to gender role specifically, but I think some of it does come from being a woman. Sometimes I think emotionally first and I have to take a step back and think logically, but connect the pieces. I have to put myself in someone else's shoes to know how we can actually change a process and improve a process and really see it, whether it's a different supplier, it's a different corporation, or it's a different way at the plant to do. I started my career in manufacturing, and I've now worked on the customer side. So I've seen different facets. And I think that's the unique perspective that I bring, is being able to connect different individuals and see their side to be able to solve problems in a unique way. And bringing that empathy in is a really big piece of it for me. And it's really how I lead. I've definitely experienced some barriers being a woman in supply chain, but it's hard sometimes for me to piece out what is just my gender and what is my age, what is my experience, what's my educational background. But I think there's pieces that sometimes they all fit together. And I'd be lying if I said I haven't experienced ones on my gender. I mean, I've definitely heard things thrown around like gentleman's agreement and you just don't understand. And to give you a funny example, I started my career in manufacturing and they could not get a Nomex suit small enough for me, as it was a male dominated industry. And really I had to pin the pant legs as well as the arm sleeves with safety pins to be able to wear the Nomex suit when I went into the manufacturing plant. So there are barriers in the small sense and the funny sense of that this hasn't been a lot of women in this space, but I've also been fortunate that it's changing. And I've had a lot of female support and female mentorship and female leadership that has allowed me to break through some of these barriers and be able to really showcase that I belong and that I can make a difference no matter what my gender is. Or I think there's a couple ways that I tackle barriers no matter what they're brought upon. I think the first one is knowing your worth and advocating for yourself. Anytime I've had these situations, I've really taken that step back, thought about it emotionally, gotten passionate and fired up, but also looked at it logically. How can I write down exactly why I'm qualified or why I deserve to be here? What matters and what do I bring to the table? And really try to showcase that in a professional, but in a meaningful manner, and really show that this is important. And I've found over the years, and sometimes I've learned it the hard way, that you are your best advocate and you need to do that. No one else will advocate for you. They may support you and they may help you, but you have to be the one to step up and say, this doesn't seem fair, or I don't understand. How can I do differently? How can I work through this? And that's a really big piece. I think the next one through that, I always try to seek to understand, why has something been this way? How can we change it? How can we move forward? Is there a reason? Sometimes it's, well, that's the way it's always been done. And that doesn't really work for me. I like to kind of understand the root of the problem to figure out how we can work together. And I really try to seek different points of view so I can understand the problem as a whole and move forward and understand why there's a barrier for myself or for others. I think another piece I've found is really having those champions. As I said, but previously, I've had a lot of female role models and I've reported to women in supply chain. It really helps to be able to see yourself growing and moving up and advancing and being able to have that support. And so that's always something I've tried to do is champion for others and make room for them to see themselves a part of it, no matter their gender, their race, their background. We all have room and we all bring something to the table. So how do we work together? And then the last one I've always found to break barriers is really I start to question myself. I start to doubt when it's getting questioned on why I belong or why don't I belong. And I really start to doubt, well, was something wrong with me? Is something my problem? And that's why it's important to find your cheerleaders. I have cheerleaders at work, in my family, my friends, who will remind me that I'm smart, that I'm capable, that I'm really hardworking, and that these might be minor setbacks, but I have the capabilities and the drive to make change and be able to make a difference. So I think that's always important, and especially as women, we question ourselves and we doubt ourselves, and we really go into situations that we're not ready for, and or we think we're not ready for. And so having those cheerleaders on a regular basis who tell you, no, you are qualified, you are important, and you belong here. And I think that's always the way I found is find the support that can help you continue to be your best self and bring your best self to whatever you do. Yeah, I think there's a lot of pieces on how to be a cheerleader and how to be a support system. I think one of the pieces is really understanding what someone needs. And sometimes you just have to ask them that. Today, what do you need? Sometimes I have a coworker in particular. She and I ask, hey, can I just vent? This is between you and I. It doesn't go any further, but I just need to get it off my chest. I just need to vent. Give me 15 minutes and I'll move on and we'll be good. So I think sometimes it's asking. And then there's other times it's, hey, can you offer me some feedback? Can you give me some support? Can you remind me? So it's asking those questions on what someone needs. And then it's noticing the little things and really understanding what someone needs in their life or needs in their time. And I think it's as a friend, as a family member, as a coworker, you start to notice those little things. For me, people come first, and that's always how I've led and how I work in supply chain and outside supply chain. I really pick up on people's emotions and try to do my best to help them. If they're having a rough day, hey, can we go out for drinks? Or do you just want to talk? Or what can I do? And I think I've done it for my team members, especially throughout this year with the pandemic, is a lot of the time I'll just send them a quick little ping or an email. Hey, just checking in. I don't need anything, just saying hi. Sometimes it's even just a 1 to 5 scale. How are you today? And what can I do to help bring you to a 5 versus a 1? And that's really a piece, is just really caring about people and really learning about them to see how you can support them. Sure, I think I'm equal parts bookworm and adventure seeker. So you'll find me just as likely out for a run as reading a book. But I think one that's I've taken a lot out of as I build out my career is the book called Thanks for the Feedback. It's really about how do we receive feedback and how do we utilize it? How do we evaluate it? How do we move forward with what we're receiving and understanding what's good and what's bad feedback? And I found it's not just important for my career, but it's also for any relationship you have, is understanding what experience am I bringing here that's making me react this way? Or how do I know that this is it something in their experience, and how do I balance that? So it really helps you, to what I was discussing about too before, how you evaluate that and know if it's good or bad, to know how to improve yourself and be on this journey of growth versus, oh, I got this feedback, I must be doing something really wrong. Whereas a lot of the time, no, this is just a way for you to improve and to grow. And I think it talks about that, about how feedback is more of a growth mindset and how we can build out from it and we can improve ourselves versus a reflection on who we are as a person. And I think that's really been beneficial for me, and I recommend it to a lot of people. For the future of supply chain, I see it making the world a better place. It touches so many facets that to solve the world's problems and make it better for each of us, we're going to have to tackle these pieces in supply chain. It's everything from climate change to food scarcity to health and safety, really understanding how supply chain factors into that. It's simple things like looking at the last mile. How do we reduce wasted miles in transportation? How do we reduce packaging waste? How do we reduce process waste? At the same time, how do we make things more renewable? And you're going to see it in anything throughout this year with the pandemic. It's anything like vaccines are tied to supply chain, or you're going to see food, medicine, supplies. All of that is impacted by supply chain, and how we work together and how we really improve the world is going to happen through the supply chain if we start to think about that and not just put profit first, because I think there's other pieces that go into it as well. And that's always been my philosophy, is I think I can make change happen, and it's not just about the bottom line for me. It's also about making a difference in my community and being able to help in other ways and solve some of these issues that are going to be pressing our world, because supply chain is so interconnected with people, processes, goods, ideas, etc., that's going to be the future of supply chain, is how do we improve and how do we make things better for each and every one of us. For me, I really want to help other people, and that's true to who I am, and I really hope this inspires other women, because I think there's space for everyone in this field, and I really have learned so much and really gained so much knowledge working in supply chain for the last 8 some years. So I do hope it inspires others to join the industry.